The time is exactly 11:30 on ZiFM Stereo, my station, your station. And we've got our guest in the studio. Her name is Tanaka Dzomba. She's a lawyer and she's here to just clarify or clear out some things. We've got a couple of questions that we're going to be asking her. And if you want to be part of the conversation, you can come through on 0772 Tanaka, welcome back to ZiFM Stereo. Not you guys making me feel bad about not being here the last time you were here.
Tatenda was not here the last time.
I wasn't.
We had a great discussion with Tanaka.
We did.
Okay, a refresher. Maybe you can tell us what did you guys talk about?
Do we remember? That was such a long time ago.
When was that?
Look, we were,
2 months ago, actually.
yeah.
You know when you say a long time ago,
That is a long
you know before COVID is a long time ago. 2 months ago, not really.
Look, we were having girl time. It was a good time. So that's all that matters.
Yeah.
But today, of course, we're going to be focusing on family business succession planning, passing it down. So from you, Tanaka, we want to know about why is succession planning essential for family businesses and what are the potential consequences of not having a plan?
Okay, so at the core of family businesses is the idea of creating a legacy.
Right.
And the one aspect that's prevalent there is the aspect of continuity. So you want this business to be there long after you're gone, and you want to be able to pass it on from one generation
Right.
to the other, right? So the next reason why it's important is so that you prepare the next generation for
Right.
taking up the positions and the seats and running the business. And preparing the next generation is quite a lot, It ranges from training them, mentoring them, exposing them to the different aspects of the business so that you're also able to identify which role fits which person,
Right.
which individual. Because not all of us are meant to be leaders,
True.
Sometimes you don't have the leadership qualities, but you're able to assist in other aspects. So that's really important there. And then the consequences of not planning, I think, at the risk of stating the obvious, is obviously a leadership vacuum. You get to a point where the current leader has left leadership or has retired or unfortunately has died, and there's no one to take up that space, and that eventually leads to, the destruction of the business. It crumbles, and there's no continuity there. It's done. Right?
I don't know if you've watched Succession. It's a TV series.
Yes, I've seen
Pretty much
a couple of
talking about
episodes.
exactly what you were talking
Yes,
about. Yeah.
Yes. So preparation is at the center of everything. And then the other issue that you could face with not planning is the issue of loss of client confidence. So your clients, your customers, your employees will lose confidence in the business itself. And what happens when that happens? People start leaving.
Yeah, you lose money.
You lose money, you lose key employees, you lose, your clients, and the business eventually crumbles. So I think the one consequence that we can talk about here is the issue of the business simply dying with the owner or with the leader.
We've seen it happen so many times.
So many times.
And we've had conversations about this so many times. But now that we're here, how can family businesses ensure a smooth transition? I think you've mentioned partly how they can do that of
Yes.
ownership and management to the next generation.
So early planning is very important. So it's not just about planning, it's about early planning. You should be proactive and not reactive. So reactive, we're talking about something has happened and now you're running around trying to make sure that, there's someone who occupies the seat. That is the wrong way to go about
Right.
things. You want to ensure that you've planned well in time and that these successors are coming up slowly but surely, rising up to the occasion and occupying the seat that they need
And
to
confirm
occupy.
succession doesn't necessarily have to be in the family. It could be somebody who's been in the business long enough.
Yes, it really could. And it's very important to have a combination of people who are in the family and also external people, just for objectivity reasons, because sometimes when you're dealing with families, emotions run high, people
Absolutely.
don't
That's
get
very
along,
true.
and that can lead to the breakdown of the structure as it is. So you need to ensure that there are external advisors that you've put into place who are able to assist and provide some objective view as to how the business should be run. Shouldn't be
right.
emotional all the time.
So as families, how can you choose a successor and how do you identify a potential candidate who can be a successor?
You'll recall that I mentioned the issue of training, mentorship, and all that. Have these programs in place as early as possible. So whether it's through an internship, you are taking the successors under your wing, training them, like I said, exposing them to each and every aspect of the business so that you're also able to identify, like I said, who's ready to take up which role. And then after that, you are able to then push them and guide them into the position that they should fill when you're gone.
Right.
And you should eventually, the process itself should be gradual. It shouldn't be instant. It should be the mentor who is occupying the seat, is mentoring these young successors, and gradually they are getting to a position where they can then run the ship.
All right. And how can family businesses balance the needs and expectations of different family members, including those who are involved in the business and those that are not?
That is a very, very tricky
Yeah,
situation.
especially this one. And people
That is
always
a
have
very
their
tricky
opinions. They want to,
situation, yes.
yeah. Uh-huh.
So when it comes to the family business in itself, you obviously, if it's a company, you obviously have a board of directors. And like I said,
Sure.
it's essential to have a little cocktail of family members and non-family members
All right.
in that board. And then after that, you also need to ensure that the family itself is having regular meetings to ensure that they ventilate their issues, their concerns, their expectations, and then thereafter that can be taken up to the board to see whether it's even feasible to take these things into account. Because you can't just say because Tanaka has a certain expectation, it should be enforced and this is how we should be doing things.
Right.
Sometimes it actually doesn't make business sense, and it's not about blood relations and seniority. We are running a business after all.
And again, as you were talking, I think Tatenda mentioned succession, right? I'm thinking of Empire. I think.
Oh, yeah,
Empire
there's
was-
Empire as well. Yeah,
Yes.
Empire as well. Yeah.
Succession
Exactly.
was an issue there with the
really was.
children, with the boys,
Yes,
and the
yes.
conflict that was there.
It was crazy.
Exactly.
It was crazy. So how best can conflict be managed in such a situation where there's succession involved?
So remember those external advisors we spoke about? Those people will be able to mediate in most circumstances.
Okay.
To say, okay, this is the situation. I'm coming in with an objective view. I am not emotionally attached to this business, but I do have financial interest in this business. So they'll be able to guide and provide some form of resolution to any conflict that may arise.
Yeah, because family is a complicated, it's a
Really
complexity
is.
on its own. So imagine then coming in with business as well. So now let's talk about the role of estate. Right, I want to find out what role does estate planning play in family business succession planning, and how can it help minimize taxes and ensure a smooth transfer of wealth.
Okay. So the primary role of estate planning is to override the default rules of interstate succession. Now, interstate succession, involves a situation where a person has died and they had not made provisions for what should happen when they die.
Okay.
So having
What kind of provisions in a situation like a business and estate? What kind of provisions would be lacking in this scenario that you've just mentioned?
So if there are no legal and financial frameworks that have been set into place, for instance, when we talk about estates, we are talking about your personal estate and your asset, right?
Right.
Which can also be linked to the business, especially if it's a family business. So having things like trusts and wills put into place will assist you in
Yes.
managing your estate generally and how that affects the family business or the family structure. At the
Okay.
end.
So what are some of the common mistakes that family businesses make when it comes to succession planning, and how can they be avoided? I'm also thinking of a situation of children, the firstborn, the middleborn, lastborn. There's always an issue there because I want to bring it closer to home. And usually, culturally, traditionally, we choose the firstborn, right?
True.
What happens when there are situations where parents decide to choose the lastborn because they are choosing based off of character, maturity, and all of that, not based off of the number, the order
The order of birth.
of birth? Yeah.
That is true. We do tend to say the firstborn is the one who's supposed to take over and lead and things like that. But you need to look at competence. Is this person competent enough to occupy this position? What are their talents? What are their soft skills? What are they able to do? What are they able to contribute?
Are they
to the
even
business?
interested in taking on?
Exactly, and
You know
that's
what I mean?
one thing. And that's where commitment comes in. Because if I'm not interested in something, I'm not going to be committed to it.
Yes.
You need to be able to identify of your children and of your successors who is able to take up that role and who is committed to that role.
Absolutely. No, because we've seen situations where that maybe the child that the business owner wants to succeed does not even want anything to do with the business. They're like, no, nah, I don't even want. And then the one child that is say, hey man, I'm here, I'm ready.
Yes,
They don't even look at the
yes,
at that person. It's quite sad sometimes.
It happens a lot. So how can family businesses ensure that their values and legacy are preserved across generations and that the business remains true to its mission and vision?
So you remember when we spoke about estate planning, I mentioned the issue of trusts, right? So in a trust deed, ideally, you can set out the vision and values of the founder of that trust.
Yes.
And then you can place your shares and your assets in the trust so that they're held by the trust. Now, the people who are then coming up and taking ownership and transfer and control of the company now will be guided by those principles. So training as well, when we mentioned the issue of training and mentorship, make sure that you instill those values and those visions
Right.
in their minds, so that in whatever they do, they're having this thing at the back of their mind that, you know, the reason why this business exists is because of XYZ. And
Right.
they'll be able to carry it on and pass it on from one generation to the other.
It's called Family Matters on ZiFM Stereo. If you have any contribution, maybe you have some questions, we're still here on 0772 168 045. We're taking a music break, and when we're back, we're taking those questions. It's 12 minutes before we get to the news on top of the hour news in Shona and Isindebele. It's Family Matters. We're still joined in the studio by our lawyer for the day, hopefully for the future, Tanaka. This is us shooting our shots, eh? We want you to be part of this. You know, every Wednesday, you come through with your insightful knowledge about what we will be discussing.
That's fine. Talk to me nice. We'll make a
Talk to me nicely.
All right, so we've been talking about succession and what families need to do, especially with family businesses, how they need to, the right structures around the business to ensure that there's continuity. And thank you for the insightful information that you've been giving us. Now that we're here, do you think as Zimbabweans we are adopting the culture of actually following or taking family businesses seriously enough to then invest in the upcoming generation or the younger ones that are coming in? Do you think we have businesses that are doing that successfully? And what do you think is the reason why they've been so successful?
Okay, I don't know of any popular
Okay.
or well-known rather businesses that are doing that at the moment. I'm sure they are, but not to my knowledge. But I know a few small family businesses that I've worked with, and after they noticed that they are not really like training up their children to take up these positions, they then started doing all these mentorship and training programs to allow them to, acquaint themselves with the business as a whole.
Absolutely.
And I think we're doing a pretty decent job at, taking steps to ensure that we are equipping the next generation with the necessary knowledge and skill set.
Right.
It will obviously take some time because it's not that popular. But now with the issue of trusts coming in,
Right.
trusts are very popular in Zimbabwe right now. And that is very good because, it means that people are thinking ahead and planning for when they are no longer there. So I think kudos to you guys. You're doing a pretty good job at that. Yeah.
We're
All
trying.
right, all
Yeah.
right.
Trying.
We're very happy about that.
Yeah.
There's a video I wanted to play actually, but it's letting me down, so it's fine.
Okay.
But I'll just explain it to you.
Sure.
It was a talk show, and there's a lady who was explaining that a husband, upon his death, if he had a girlfriend out of his marriage, right? So maybe a small house, side chick, however you want to put it, she is allowed to claim for her children.
Okay.
Yes. So that's my question.
Okay.
Is that allowed? Yes, she's
So
allowed to do
to
that.
Basically claim maintenance.
To claim
in respect of
maintenance,
children.
Or
especially
a
if
piece of the pie.
yes, a piece of the pie, especially if the husband was consistently sending maybe money for school fees
Okay,
for the child.
okay.
She's allowed to actually even have a conversation with the wife and say, I'm allowed to get something from the inheritance.
So this child has a birth certificate with
Yes, and surname.
the deceased name
Yes.
and everything.
And
Okay.
everything.
So I wanted to ask you about that. It was literally just on a talk show, and I wanted to
Okay.
ask you as a lawyer.
Okay. Yes, that is quite possible.
Okay.
your estate is there to take care of your beneficiaries, and by virtue of these children being this man's offspring, children, basically they have a claim to his estate. So they have a right to maintenance whilst they're still alive, and they also have a right to maintenance even after he's gone, so they can claim from his estate.
Okay, question. Confirm you list the beneficiaries.
Yes.
What if this child is not on the
Listed.
list, listed on the beneficiaries, but legit biological child with a birth certificate was getting assisted school fees before, but it's off book, or it's not, you know what I
Okay.
mean?
Yes.
So unfortunately, if I've already put it in my will that this person and this person are my beneficiaries and they're to get XYZ from my estate, and the master has confirmed this will as valid and legal, that's it.
That's it.
When it comes to interstate succession now, if I haven't left a will to that effect, then I have other people who can then come into the picture and say, you know what, I am laying my claim to this estate. I am the biological child of the deceased, XYZ. Then you just lay out your claim as it is.
Wow, interesting.
This is why it's essential to prepare.
To prepare. All right. In such a
Prepare.
situation for this child that we're talking about, born out of a marriage setup, does this child have to deal with the wife? Do you have to have conversations with the wife and talk to the wife for this to happen? Because wives can be very difficult, of course, and it's understandable. And they'll try to block and do everything in their power to make sure that that doesn't happen. What does this child do in such a situation?
Okay, so I feel like we're getting into a whole different topic
It
right now,
is
but I
totally
will
different, yes.
try to assist a little bit there. So when someone dies, you know, we register their estate at the master's office, and then there's appointment of the executor. So the executor can be an independent party, it can be a lawyer like myself, it can be a relative who's able to take care of the administrative duties. That person or the children who are laying claim to the estate don't necessarily have to deal with the wife. So if there's an
Okay.
executor in place, you approach the executor, you lay your claim.
Okay.
And if you notice on your newspapers, there is a section where there are adverts from the master's office. So it's accounts lying for inspection, advertisements to creditors
True.
and debtors in relation to
Oh.
deceased estate. At that point, you can also then approach the executor and say, I have a claim because of ABC, prove your claim, and then you'll get your relief there.
That's
Alright.
quite clear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tanaka, we got a question here. And at what point does estate planning to avoid government taxes become tax evasion, which is illegal?
So we have a lot of avenues we can use that are legal to actually not evade tax per se, but
Because
to
that is not-
manage.
yeah.
Yes. No,
It's-
we're not trying to evade tax
Yeah.
here.
It's
don't-
managing, yeah.
Yeah, we're trying to manage. So it's either you pay less tax or you qualify for legal exemptions.
Right.
When you're dealing with property and transfer ownership and things like that. So it really depends with the structure of your business. What are you trying to do? And if you speak to an expert in that field, they'll be able to guide you to say, okay, I understand this is what you want to do and these are your options. Or let's change it up a little bit so that you are able to, take full advantage of the tax exemptions that may come with those transactions or with the minimal tax that you must have to pay. So it's not about tax evasion. It's about managing.
It's about managing.
Yes, it's about managing.
Okay, that's great. That's great.
Interesting. Well, thank you so much, Tanaka. We also got you off script and we had to ask about something different, but that's what we love
Thank
about
you,
you.
thank you.
You're a
Yeah,
lawyer.
always ready,
You know your
always
stuff.
ready.
Thank you,
Yes,
thank
and
you.
always ready.
Thank
Much
you for having me.
appreciation. Thank you so much for coming through on Family Matters and giving us more information about estates and inheritances and also family succession. Thank you very much, Tanaka Dzomba.
Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely.